I think while Arnold Schwarzenegger is an idol, particularly for men,
Yeah.
it's also kind of unfortunately created a bit of a myth for women, I think, who want to lift weights. Because that is a common block, isn't it, for women? Oh my goodness, I'm going to get like Arnie.
Yeah.
When you're doing weight training.
And for sure. And it's like as if it's that easy. You know what I mean? It's just not one of the other. Like, and just this will put things in massive perspective. One of the greatest bodybuilders of all time next to Arnold was a guy called Ronnie Coleman. And I literally listened and he was like, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. He had all these like famous sayings. And he was talking the other day in his prime, and he's classed as like a genetic elite. So like you do get some people who can genetically build muscle easier, carry more muscle. And he was classed as like the top of the food chain when it comes to genetics, just insane. And he was taking performance enhancing drugs, which he talks about. So that makes a huge difference as well. And he's a guy, so he's got high levels of testosterone. And he said in his prime, he was gaining 10 pounds of muscle per year. So to put that in perspective, that's 0.83 pounds per month. That's how much muscle he was gaining.
Yeah. As a professional, top of his game, world-class bodybuilder. Yeah. So you know what I'm going to ask you next, don't you? You know what I'm going to ask next. So, right. Ronnie Coleman's building less than a pound of muscle a month.
Yeah.
I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. I've said this before.
Yeah. I know what you're going to say.
Muscle weighs more than fat. I'm gaining muscle.
Yeah.
Because I have had that before where I've definitely had two pictures side by side where I'm the same weight, but I do look more muscular on one compared to the other.
For sure.
Is that just a good angle on the photo? Am I kidding myself? Is it possible for somebody like me to build a shed load of muscle?
You can. So just to take it back to that, like a pound of anything is a pound. A pound of fat and a pound of muscle weigh the same. Just muscle is more dense, so it takes up less space. So if you did lose 5 pounds of fat and gain 5 pounds of muscle, your body composition would look different, but you'd weigh the same on the scales. However, building muscle isn't a fast process. You know what I mean? You do get, as I mentioned a bit earlier, you get like newbie gains. And if you've trained before and then took time off training, you have muscle memory, so you can come back and put muscle on a lot easier. But in like your first 1 to 2 years of resistance training, you can put on a lot of muscle, and then you kind of I think it's almost the same as anything. Like, you know, if you started learning a new skill, you kind of peak in the first like year or two, and then it's about like becoming the expert. It's about like, you know, tightening all those other little bits which make you like incrementally better. And to a degree, it's the same with like your body. You can see crazy gains in the first 12 to 18 months, but it's probably not as much as people think. Because you know, I have a lot of ladies say to us, oh, I've not lost weight, but I'm building muscle. And unfortunately, you know, 99% of the time that just isn't true. And it's either something's told you or an excuse you're buying into. And most of the time it's either you've worked out your calories incorrectly and you're overestimating your output, or you're not tracking your food correctly and you're underestimating your input. And both of those things are super common. So I'm never like pointing the finger and blaming anyone. I'm like, let's just take a closer look at this, because clearly you want to keep losing body fat. And you're not happy with maybe the fact that you've plateaued, but you believe it's because you build a muscle, and maybe you are, but probably at a much slower, more incremental rate than you think. Because, you know, if we look at like how we want to build muscle, well, testosterone's the main muscle building hormone. Women have about 10 times less than the guys, so that makes it a lot harder to pack on a lot of muscle. Then, you know, how the muscle is going to grow is by putting it under consistently more tension. So you have to be consistently weight training and progressively getting stronger. And then it's a suboptimal place to build muscle in a calorie deficit. You know, calorie deficit is consuming fewer calories than your body burns. So your body eats itself. Well, if your body is...
Such a lovely visual.
Well, if your body is eating itself for energy, it's only going to build muscle as a last resort because you're putting it under so much consistent tension. So if you take all of those things into consideration, you know, let's say you were able to do 50% of what Ronnie Coleman could do, which is still a ridiculous.
Huge
amount. But let's just, you know,
let's pretend.
That's 0.42 pounds per month.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting to lose a pound a week and you're doing 50% of Ronnie Coleman, that's 0.42 pounds a month. You know, it's very unlikely that building muscle is the reason that you're not losing weight or losing fat. And unfortunately, it's a myth that does get carried around and it does get heard a lot, but unfortunately it just isn't true. Like 99% of the time. Like I said, maybe the one time that you might see it would be if you took a long time off training and you had a lot of muscle on your body, and then you come back to training after taking a long time off, your body would have muscle memory, would remember the muscle that's there, and you would see strength gains really quick and the muscle would come back on relatively quickly.
So now you've debunked that muscle myth.
Yeah.
Depressed us all.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. You can build muscle. It's a marathon. It really is.